Hey everyone, sorry the video is late again this week, but hopefully this helps you. This is the implementation of the controller layer of your games, at least the controller layer for the complex calculations that you have. First things first, you'll add the controller package to your game. So under source packages, right click, new Java package, and we're going to call it BUIUI.cit260.SaveTheCity, which is my game name, controller, and it'll create that new package over there. And the first method that I'm going to implement is mine is called the collection controller. So this is when you run into a hero or a civilian or whatever that you need to rescue or have added to your team. And there's going to be some calculations that the player has to solve to actually add the hero to their team. So that's why it's called the collection controller. So I'm going to create that. It's going to create the controller for me. And in my controller, I'm not going to need any member variables. The controllers, again, only have methods. And my method that I had in my pseudocode example and test matrix example was a method that returned a double that was called calculate pyramid volume, I think it was. And it took three parameters. It took a length, a width, and a height. And as you can see, this is just, again, the framework for my function, and it's NetBeans is complaining at me. It says I'm missing a return statement. Sometimes these are good to click and follow. Sometimes they are bad. The worst are when you have a method so if I included hero, well, you know what? No, we'll talk about those a little bit later. Try and avoid them for now and just code everything the way you think you should. And you'll notice in this, it has a return type of double, but I'm not returning anything. That is our error. So I'm going to just return 0 for now so that it's happy. Okay, so now I can just follow my pseudocode, which says that I take the length times the width times the height, and I'm going to assign that to a double. That's going to be total, I don't know, mult. And then I just return total mult divided by 3. Actually, before that, I need to do my sanity checks. The sanity checks, if length is less than or equal to 0, or width is less than or equal to 0, or height is less than or equal to 0, then I return -1, which is my error condition. Again, code just reads linearly. It's very math-like where you have variables. And all I'm saying is if this variable length, whatever I get in this function, is less than or equal to 0, or, I'm going to double pipes for or, width is less than or equal to 0, or height is less than or equal to 0, then I'm going to return -1. And this return statement is going to jump out of this function and jump back to whatever I was at. Return to wherever this was called from, you can think of it as. And so if I hit this condition and jump into this block of code, then I don't execute any of this, which is fine because I don't want to if any of these are error conditions. So this works for me, and I can check that by creating a unit test. And the way you create a unit test is you select the class that you want, you click Tools, and then Create Update Tests, and we want JUnit. We want that in the test package. Everything the default except for test initializer and test finalizer, I believe, come checked by default. You want to uncheck those. And that's it. And then you click OK. We're on JUnit 4. Select. And you'll see it creates all this code for me. And this is just the unit test. It's setting up variables for me and the controller instance that I'll need. And it's calling the method and everything that I need to do, except for it's failing the test automatically. And I can show you that because you'll see it created this test packages directory. I can right-click on this new test, and I can say test file, and it'll run. the test, and it'll show me the results that this failed. Expected 0.0 but was negative 1.0. Which actually is on this line it's failing. It'll even say that, I believe, if I expand this. Yeah, see how it says collection controller test.java:32. That says it's happening in the collection controller test class at line 32, which is this line. So it's this assert equals that's failing, and let's see why. So first of all, it's going to print out calculate pyramid volume, which it did. Then it's going to declare a new variable length, that's a double, a width, that's a double, and height, that's a double, and set them all to 0. And then it's going to create a new instance of that collection controller class that I just made. And that's what we need, because this method is not static, so we need an instance of the collection controller. Then it's going to set up this expected result and set that to 0. And then it's going to call my collection controller instance, the method calculate pyramid volume, passing in those variables, and then it's going to make sure the expected result was the actual result we got. And then this is a margin of error that you need for decimal comparisons. For most assert equals, you will not need that, but if you are comparing two doubles, you will have a third parameter to your assert equals, which is the margin of error, because as the reading talks about, doubles in Java aren't entirely precise all the time, so that's always good to have, but you should be able to leave at 0.0 for your calculations. So I'm going to jump over to my test matrix and pull in some of the numbers that I calculated. Okay, so you can see I just pulled from my test matrix the values 2, 4, 5, and the expected result 13.33. So if I run this now, and right-clicking it and clicking test file, it's actually going to fail again, because you can see it expected 13.33 but was 13.3334. Right? This is again a rounding error from my part and on Java's part. I'm never going to predict that rounding, so that's what this this argument comes in. I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to be lazy and just say I'm okay with a margin of error of 1/10. You can go less than that, and that should be fine still as well. So now if I execute this test, it'll still fail, but now it's a different failure. It's saying it's failing because the test case is a prototype. It's on line 34 now. Oh, because we have this auto fail in our test case. So you can see the to do is just says remove this default call to fail. And so I'm going to remove that and test it again now. And the test passed. Now this is only one column of my test matrix. So what I'm going to do is copy this, and then within the same method, make sure you're within the method block, paste it all again, and then I can't declare the name of my variable multiple times. So I'm just going to get rid of these declarations and just reassign those values. Again, I don't need actually even a new instance. So expect result and then the result. And so I can do any of my other ones. So for instance, if I have one of my failure test cases, I can say if I'm putting in -1 for length, my expected result is actually going to be -1, which was my error condition. So I'll test this file again, and now it says test passed. And it should, somewhere it'll say 2 out of 2 tests passed, or it usually would. For however many assert equals you have there are, or maybe it's by method. But yeah, you're going to want to do this for at least 3 of the columns of your test matrix, just so that you get an idea that every case is working, or at least most cases are working. And you can see that one worked as well. And that's going to help you debug your code. Now let's say my code wasn't working correctly. So let's say for some reason I forgot to add this height check. So even if height's negative, I'm going to calculate it. So let's make height my negative parameter on this last test. And I'm going to run this test case. it's going to say I failed, and it's going to say expected -1 was negative 6.66 whatever. So, and it's going to tell me again the line that was on right here on this line where it says at, and it's going to say 46. Okay, so this is the test case that failed. Well, we can make sure that it works, or we can debug it by putting a breakpoint on this line, which is you click the line number to put a breakpoint, or we can put a breakpoint when we enter the method. And then instead of right-clicking and test file, we're going to debug test file. And so you'll see I hit this breakpoint, and I can hover over all the variables and see what their values are. I'm calling this, from this test, I call calculate pyramid volume 3 times. So this first time that I'm entering it is the first time I call it. I know this is one passes, so I'm going to continue. Now it's broken again on the, or it's hit the breakpoint again on the second call, which I know is not broken, so I'm going to hit continue again. Now on the third call, you can see my length is 1, my width is 4, and my height is -5. And if I step by clicking these buttons up here, step over is the one you're going to want to use almost always. You'll see it didn't hit my if condition. That's because I forgot this height one. And I can step over this one again, and then my total multiplication factor or whatever is -20. And so I'm going to return -20 divided by 3. Well, I can see obviously I don't want to do that. I just forgot the height check. So I'm going to continue, turn off the breakpoint, add that height check back in, and that's how you debug. If you do need help debugging at all, please let me know. I'm more than happy to. Something I just explained to another student earlier this evening is if you start feeling like you're getting behind, please come see me in office hours, make time outside of office hours. I will walk through your code as soon as we start coding more and more, and I will fix things. I will completely fix things to bring you up to speed. But I won't do that on my own. I want to make sure that you're there so I can actually teach you why I'm doing what I'm doing, and so you hopefully understand how all this code works together, and so you get like an understanding and you're actually learning something. But that is your assignment this week as far as this goes, is the team assignment, the single method, and then the individual single method and test cases, and then the individual assignment, your individual pseudocode to code and test, unit test. And that's it. So hopefully you don't have too many difficulties with that. Hopefully this video helps you a bit. If you have any other questions, post to the developer forum. Let me know. Let's meet outside of office hours or any other time. I am here to help. So yeah, I hope this week goes well for you and you have a nice long weekend.